Let's get this session started. Thank you everyone for one of the final sessions of today. And we're going to be talking about going headless with the Composable Storefront. It's not a new product, but it is getting some love, and a lot of updates are happening to it. So that's why I decided to feel that it's important to keep everyone up to date and what it is, why should you use it, and what should you not be using it for. Maybe first, before we get started, a little bit about myself. So I'm Thomas, I'm from Belgium, I'm the head of commerce at Forward. I also took care of the non-profit Headless, which is a theater group in Belgium where I take care of basically the Salesforce installation to keep everything up and running. Besides that, I am also an instructor for Trailhead Academy, where I teach the architect course for B2C Commerce Cloud twice a year. So if you are planning on preparing for your certification, there's a 50% chance that I will be your instructor for that course. I also have a blog, The Rhino Inquisitor, where I put down my thoughts about B2C Commerce Cloud and anything related to development on the platform, and just anything I can think of. Besides that, I am also active with Salesforce, a little bit of marketing. If you want a geeky Salesforce related t-shirt, then please visit Salesforce. And since this year, also a golden hoodie recipient. But enough about me, you're not here about me, you're about the content that we're going to be talking about. What is Headless? What is the Composable Storefront? These are the basic questions that I'm hoping that you're here for. And before we get started with the product, it might be interesting to explain what actually Headless is. There's a lot of theories going around. Everyone has their own idea of what Headless is. And that makes it very confusing for many people to understand what is going on in the headless space or composable. All of these terms are thrown into the same sentence, and everyone throws in their own opinion, which can lead to more and more confusion. But if we take headless and take it back to the basics, it's separating your front end from your back end. And if we rearrange some of the words here, we can say the front end is your shopper experiences, if we're talking in commerce terms, and the back end would be where all of your processes are running. And you're going to be connecting that shopper experience through APIs with your back end, and that's when you have headless in its basics. But that's when things can start getting a bit more tricky. There's a lot of different ways that you can go headless. You can have, let's start at what, if we take Commerce Cloud or we're looking at Experience Cloud, we're here in the left area. Everything is on one system. There's no REST APIs talking to each other. There's no need to, you're doing everything on the same platform. The second layer here, API enriched, you can have your storefront website on top of your backend immediately, which is what's usually happening now. But you could have a mobile application that is connecting through REST APIs to that backend. So you have one touch point, one application that is using the headless APIs, but the rest is still a monolithic approach, as they call it, where everything is on the same platform. Now, when we're going to API-led, you're separating the front end from the back end. That's the previous slide. And that's when we're going to slowly head into composable territory, is where we're going to have a front end talking to multiple back end systems. Now, it's important to know that headless and composable are not the same thing. They're technically not fully related even, because you can have a headless approach without actually having any composability in your architecture. So that's why this slide is quite important, because if we look at the term composability, it is choosing multiple products that fit your needs the best and having them all work together to create an experience that you want to give to people. It might be your customers, it might be internally, it might be employees that have to use an application, and you're going to choose the best of breed product for each situation. Like for search, you want to have the best search provider for your service. For content, you want the best content management system. For marketing, you want the best marketing system, and they all need to be working together in that front-end experience. And that's you're going to compose your own architecture. Now this could be headless, this could technically doesn't have to be headless. So that's why it's important to understand that there's differences between going headless and composable. Composable is the choice of products you're going to compose your architecture, while headless is the architecture that you're going to be using to compose all of the systems together. Now if we're going to go into composability, you can see that it can get quite complicated already. You're going to have multiple touch points, you're going to have a third-party application, you're going to have your mobile application, you're going to have your web application, all talking to different types of services that you want to connect to. And in some cases, you might even want to put a BFF, backend for frontend, in the middle to orchestrate all of those different services, because all of these services have a purpose. Your CMS will handle your content, your PIM system will handle your products, your search engine will give you search results, but all of these services need to be combined. If you want to show content on your search results, you want to do that, you want to have a seamless experience that all that content is loaded immediately together. And that's where composability also comes with complexity. You need to make sure that all the systems that you're connecting are talking to each other in a orderly fashion, so you do not make things harder for yourself. If we're going to look at the Composable Storefront, I'm going to touch back on this thing as what you can do and what you shouldn't do with the Composable Storefront, and how you can start your headless journey going from a simple architecture to a more complicated one where you're starting to have third-party integrations besides products from Salesforce itself. So now that we got headless and composable a bit out of the way, it's still a technical topic. It's a way of working. We're going to talk about the product itself. So what is the Composable Storefront? It's actually two-part. The first part is your progressive web app, the template that you will be using to develop your storefront. Now for now it's B2C Commerce Cloud only. We'll head into the roadmap on what this will mean in the future and which products it will use. But for now it is a progressive web app template only connected to B2C Commerce Cloud, and possibly also some other accelerator packages that third parties are providing. The second part is the managed runtime, which I also have a dedicated slide for to explain what that means. But the important thing is that it's a separate product from what already exists. So it lives in its own region and it connects in its way. And important to understand, the name is the PWA kit, and it uses a single page application built in React. But there's a lot of confusion also going around on what is a PWA. I've had multiple discussions on we don't want a PWA, but actually not knowing what it is. So if we're looking at a single page application versus a regular website, is that you originally load your page and afterwards only segments of your page are being replaced. In this case via React, which will only replace when you navigate the things that need to be replaced. It will not do a full page load each time you're switching pages, it will just switch out what is necessary. While in a previous non-single page, you would reload the entire page, it will load all of the things in the header, the footer, all of the things you've loaded before but haven't changed between pages. A PWA does not have to be a single page application by default. It can be any website, you can make a PWA. I did it with my blog. It's not a single page application. It's basically putting in a file, telling the browser, hey, you can load this in as an application, you can cache things offline, but it does not need to be a single page application. And a mobile app doesn't really apply a single page. I mean, it's a mobile application, it works quite differently from any website. A single page application is not installable by default. It's making it a PWA that makes it installable, and of course a mobile application is installable. That's the way it works. Now offline availability, that's also a bit of a discussional topic. A single page application, you can have offline availability through service workers. You do not need your PWA to make things available offline. It's just a requirement to call your website PWA that content is available offline. What I mean with offline availability, you visit the homepage, you lose your internet connection, you will still be able to load that at the homepage. It's going to say, warning, you're offline now, but it's every content that you've downloaded to your device as a website will still be available. And for a mobile application, yeah, that's depending on how they build it and where your content is coming from. Push notifications is also in high demand, especially in commerce, but it's not really dependent on whether it's a PWA or not. It's also dependent on what your devices allow. Now, to make a site and call it a PWA, technically most people want to have push notifications like a regular app in there. But Apple does not allow us to send push notifications from a PWA for now. Hopefully they're going to change that in future versions, but Apple is not a fan of PWA. So you might be able to install the app, but you will not have all the features available that Android, for example, provides. Android does not block push notifications, but for now, Apple only allows push notifications if you actually have an app installed on your device. So that's why it's in a star. There's a lot of gray areas when working with PWA versus a mobile application. Now the bottom line, the bottom items on the list, native performance and access to all device features are only available to native apps. If you want the native feel and look of an application, PWA is not ready yet to give you that real experience that a native application will give you. You will be able to install it, put it on the homepage of PWA, but it will not be in the marketplace from Apple or from Android. So that's something to keep in mind. When you choose to only go for a PWA, it will not be installable from the App Store. Now you can make a so-called wrapper app for your application, but again, Google and Apple are very restrictive on what applications they will allow to be installed on your device. And if your mobile application does not have any features that the website does not provide, they might actually deny you being given access to deploy your application on the marketplace. So that is a very important thing to keep in mind when working with PWA Kit, and you do want a native application to be installed. So when we're looking at PWA Kit, it's a React single-page application, so it does not use Lightning components, it does not use basic JavaScript, it is React, so it's a completely different language or way of working, so to speak, than you are going to be used to. For many, it will be a new way, a new learning path to learn React. If at one point it becomes available for B2B, everyone who knows Lightning web components will not be able to transfer. There will be transferable skills, but it's still a completely different way of working that you will need to look at. For theming, it's not just CSS. A library is being used, Chakra UI. It's a completely different way of working. You're working with attributes, not CSS files. So that's also something, a bit of a learning curve to know how to style your components. To have some CSS in there, there's the emotion library, and for the integration, so for the API calls towards Commerce Cloud, there's the SDK provided by Salesforce to connect with your commerce system. Webpack is used to build, Jest is the unit testing framework, and Cypress is available with end-to-end. There's also tests already out of the box available for the website to do your tests, so you have something to start from all directions. So also for development, you have a completely pre-built cheat sheet for all of the different things that you want to build within the Composable Storefront. But you have your storefront application, it needs to be hosted somewhere. And if you're going headless, usually you have to look for your own environment to deploy your storefront to. Now luckily Salesforce provides an environment to deploy the Composable Storefront to. And that is called the Managed Runtime, where you can Make sure that it's up and running through two CLI commands and a button click, and you have a deployed application. It takes care of all the things you usually have to do for a headless deployment. It takes care of the CDN, it takes care of security, it takes care of caching. All of those things are something that usually you have to set up yourself with a headless storefront. In this case, it's all taken care of in a easily deployable system. So, a bit of a return to what is it. So, the Composable Storefront is a React retail application. It's built to be an e-commerce website where you can buy products and you can also install it as a progressive web app on your mobile device. It is a project generator, so again, it is your starting point, and at that point you will be doing your customizations to the website. It is already out of the box, fully integrated with everything Commerce Cloud has to offer. There are a few gaps, which I will be coming to, that have not been developed yet and are still on the roadmap. And there's a complete deployment and hosting infrastructure out of the box available that you do not have to take care of. So like I said before, there's a CDN available, there's a web application firewall, there's edge processors available, and also a proxy service for any third-party integrations that you want to use. But then, what's the end goal? What's Salesforce planning to do with the Composable Storefront? B2B is coming, so now it's only in front of B2C Commerce Cloud, but from what I heard, end 2023 it should be available, but I've also heard 2024 it will be put in front of the B2B Commerce Cloud product, which will have its own separate layer of integration with the APIs that Salesforce has to offer. And also for B2B2C in the long run, because one of the things that why going headless is a move that B2C Commerce Cloud is making is because in a few years customers will be starting on the core platform rather than on the demand web, at least from the latest news that we have heard provided by Salesforce. So in 2026, many customers will start to be migrated to the core, moving all of the products closer together, and a headless storefront will make this transition easier because your front end will be separated from your back end, which means that you can change your processes behind your front end more easily. So it's big news, it's a big change, but going headless will make this transition a lot easier by changing out the stack that is currently behind B2C Commerce Cloud and replacing it with the stack that is on the core platform. But let's come to what can you use this thing for? So you're getting a commerce platform, a commerce website where you can buy products, you can do your checkout, you can pay for your basket. But is that really the limitation? Can you only build a commerce platform on top of it? No, there's more options. Now, you can take out all of the code and you can start building your own applications in React for now. I think other languages will be supported at one point. And maybe build a mini campaign site on it. Maybe you have a Black Friday deal site that you want to promote. You can create a mini campaign site with only a few products that you want to put in the spotlight, and then redirect to your other application. What can you also use this for? Maybe as a aiding device in the stores. Maybe you want to give your employees an easier way to interact with your customer base. Give them a way to look up all of the customers that you have in Commerce Cloud, or maybe even other systems, and build a tool that they can use. Maybe even integrate it with the CRM. There's no limitation on what you can integrate the Composable Storefront with. That's the whole idea of creating a composable system, is that you can pick and choose which systems you integrate with. So it starts with B2C Commerce Cloud, but at one point you can replace your search engine with something else. You can replace the CMS with a different product, or maybe even switch out where your images don't use the dynamic image service that Salesforce Commerce Cloud provides, and use that system. So there's no real limitation on what you can build. You have an environment that can host React applications, but there is no limit to which systems that you can connect them to, which is also giving you some flexibility to create non-commerce related applications. If you have Service Cloud, or maybe another product, the order management, and you want to create a interface for customers only linked to order management, you could build it on the Headless Storefront. You can build it on the PWA kit. There's no need to just connect to B2C Commerce Cloud. And that's why it's also going to be a viable option for B2B and B2B2C in the future. But it's not as, it's like I said, it's been existing for 2 years now, but there are still some things missing. One of the biggest things that is missing is the CMS, which is now Page Designer. It is not built yet for the PWA kit. Now for the past year, Salesforce has been focusing on third-party CMSs to create accelerators for the PWA kit. Talking about 15 different CMSs that already have built accelerators for content for CMS to quickly get your site up and running, even with a third-party integration system. Social login, which is in S4A Site Genesis, is also, for example, missing, which you can easily implement with SLAS, but it's still not available yet for the PWA kit. Wishlists, which was anonymous for now, is only available for logged in customers. And a big thing that is still the case, because it is not as new as S4A or Site Genesis, is that there is not so many third-party integrations that are available for the current system. You have many cartridges, plugins already out of the box available for B2C Commerce Cloud, but they are not compatible yet with the PWA kit. So there's still a lot of work there, and if you're planning a project, you will have to build those third-party integrations yourself for now, or contact maybe that third party to build it for you. But that's not always a option, unfortunately. So how do I get started? There is a demo website available. If you scan that QR code, it is going to open the PWA kit on your phone, if everything goes fine. And on that homepage, you're going to find quite a bit of links. You're going to find a link to the public repository, which contains the PWA kit. So it's open source, and you can deploy it on your device connected to either your own environment or a demo environment provided by Salesforce. So you can get to developing almost within 15 to 20 minutes after running the command to install it. The only thing that you will not be able to control if you use the demo box is the data on Commerce Cloud. So it has demo products, it has demo payment provider, but you will not be able to change configurations to your liking. You will have to work with the server side, what it provides, unless you connect your own environment. But it's open source, so it's available for you to install whenever you like, even if you do not have a license right now for B2C Commerce Cloud. You will be able to see what it can do on a demo sandbox. Was the QR code working?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. So I think just in time, 1 minute left. So 5 minutes left for any questions. We try to compress a lot of information in a short amount of time. I'm not sure if people have questions that they want to have answered. And meanwhile, maybe I will open the PWA kit. No questions?
I have one.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So it was mentioned that for PWA it's also offline available. So can the shopper complete the checkout as well? And if so, then how is it being entered in the platform?
So the question is, with offline availability, if the customer goes offline, will he be able to finish a checkout? Out of the box, no. If you are very inventive, yes. But that's not going to be easy. So with service workers, you can technically delay API calls to happen, but since the payment process usually redirects you to a payment provider, so if you take MasterCard in Europe, you have to go through your bank, it shows a screen, and they are usually not offline available. So you're at the mercy of a third party, and they're not always going to be supporting offline availability. It's only within your domain, you do not control the third party.
By offline availability, it meant only the UI part and the
customer
can just navigate the
so you can navigate the website.
And even the inventory would not be.
No, so the inventory.
Some old inventory.
Yeah, let me try to force what happens. So I should be offline now. So you see the message now, you're currently browsing offline. That's what you get if you go to a page. So by default, so I'm still able to load the PDP that I visited, but it requires fine-grained control to make sure people view what you want them to view, because a lot of things in an e-commerce site need to be available real time. Like inventory, you do not want people to add products to the basket that are no longer available. So that's the challenge with offline availability. If you just do content like a blog, it's easy. You just make everything offline available. But if we're talking about an e-commerce experience, navigating no problem, but purchasing offline, unless you have a payment like pay after delivery, it's not going to be easy.
So just the content.
Yeah, and at the time that you viewed it also.
Something the customers deem important, the offline shopping?
No, so you mean how it gets into the device?
Yeah, you mentioned that the entire offline shopping is quite difficult to impossible, but is it sometimes not a factor for customers and it's not able offline?
No, so that's why it's not the most important feature, the offline availability. But let's look at my account. Here you have in the my account a separate section for a loyalty card. That would be nice to have offline availability. Like if I go to my local store and they're a bunker with no Wi-Fi, I would still be able to go to my account and see my loyalty card, so I can show it at the register. That's a feature that would be nice to have, even if it's a website, to still load offline, even when my connection drops, so I can show my loyalty card. That's where this becomes useful, because that's frustrating. Like you're standing in the store, they don't have Wi-Fi. I know I have my loyalty card, it's on the website, like 2 clicks away, but I don't have a connection. And that's where offline availability would be nice. But to offload the entire website offline while you're visiting the site, that would be that would be not a good idea. So what it does by default is store all the navigated pages for 24 hours, I think. And that's it. It's not going to preload. That's something you can do with BWA, start preloading, but you do not want to preload an entire e-commerce site with thousands of products. That would be not a good idea, because it's using bandwidth also from that customer. And I've done that for my blog. It's like that all the pages was downloading 50 megabytes just unnecessarily. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. If that answers your question. Alright, if there's no other questions, I hope it was clear in such a short amount of time.